Hey, come on in. I'm Slushy, and I've been making and playing indie games for over 10 years. And today I'm going to add some graphics to a game I'm working on called Jetpack Miner. Jetpack Miner is a 2D auto-running platformer. Basically, it's a one-button game where you push once to jump, and then you push again while you're in the air to fly with your jetpack. I'm making it for mobile, so Android and iOS, and I'm also making it for web browsers on desktops. I'm going to show you what it looks like right now, and then we can see what kind of graphics we want to add to it. Here it is. I'm making it in the Godot engine, and so on the right side of the screen is the Godot editor, and on the left side right here is my output window where my game is displayed. And so when I click play, the game runs, and you click to jump. If you hit a wall, it bounces you into the other direction, and if you touch a ladder, you start climbing it automatically. So it's just a one-button game. You push to jump, and then you push again to use your jetpack. And you have a limited amount of fuel for your jetpack, which you recharge when you are running on the ground. And so you can see right now the graphics are fairly basic. It's in a cave. There's a ladder. There's a repeating background. There's colorful gems to collect, and there's the particle system on the jetpack itself that shoots the fire and the smoke. So today I'm just going to spend a little time and just juice up the graphics a little bit, make it a little bit more fun and interesting to look at. So I'm just going to open up Affinity Designer, and we'll see what we're going to make. Affinity Designer is usually the graphics program that I use for designing most of my graphics. It's similar to Adobe Illustrator in that it focuses on the vector graphics, not raster or pixelated graphics. So that's very nice if you want to design graphics that you can then scale to any resolution without losing any detail. That's extremely important when designing for devices that have when designing for devices, because you've got high resolution devices, very high end devices, you've got very low end devices. So designing for the highest resolution device possible is ideal, and the best and easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is to design it using vector graphics, because they can be scaled to any resolution and you don't lose any detail. This is my Affinity Designer file that I use for Jetpack Miner, and I just have all my graphics in here, so you can see I've got the tiles, I've got the miner himself, which the miner is actually divided into several body parts and is animated as a skeleton in Godot. You can see all the different elements here: the play button, the background, the repeating background, the explosion when you die, the gems, and so forth. But today I want to add something to the game. I think I want to add some kind of rocks, something to make it look more like a mine, make it more dynamic feeling instead of the kind of plain static version that you just saw a moment ago. What I like to do when I'm adding graphics onto an existing game, what I like to do is take a screenshot of the game and then basically draw on top of it. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's go ahead and do this. Get a good screen area, and then use your screenshot tool of choice to grab a screenshot, and then I can do new from clipboard in Affinity, and it just pops it open here in a new file. And now I'm ready to start drawing my graphics. It doesn't really matter what resolution your screenshot is that you're drawing on top of here, because if you're drawing in a program like Affinity Designer, it is in vector format, so you can scale them up when you're done at any point and you won't lose any detail. So let's go ahead. Actually, I'm going to do it one more time, and I'm going to hit play. So now there's no big play button in the way, and I can just draw without anything like that. Let's take another screenshot here. On Mac, what I'm doing is Shift Control Command 4 to take a screenshot of an area of the screen of my selection, and that copies it over to my clipboard. And on Windows, you have to use a program. There's like a built-in program. You can use that. I'm not sure how it works, but it's probably pretty straightforward. So So now we'll just do new from clipboard, and there we go. Now I want to kind of draw, I think, some foreground rocks that you can kind of run behind. Nothing fancy. I just want them to kind of blend in with everything. So let's see what we can do here. So I'm going to get my pen tool and just start drawing lines. Make sure I've got my stroke as black, and my fill can be gray because they're going to be rocks. Whoops. Make a new layer. Not a pixel layer. Let's go ahead and make a new regular layer, vector layer. And then get my pen tool. My stroke needs to be black. Let's just make it 5 for now. We'll see how it looks. And make the fill gray. And then I can just start drawing on my layer here. Let's do polygon mode, which means that you just draw from line to line to line to line, and they're very straight lines. They're just completely straight corners. There's no curves in any of them yet. Rocks don't have too many curves, so we'll just draw some kind of like an arbitrary shape here to kind of look like a rock. Fill, change that to gray. Okay, so we got something we can work with here. So what do we want to do here? Let's add. What I like to do is I like to, whatever I'm drawing, I like to give highlights and shadows to. So the thing I want to draw, so the main object I want to draw has kind of mid-tones. That way I can give it highlights fairly easily and shadows fairly easily. And with those three combinations, they actually make a pretty good picture, no matter what it is you're trying to draw. So so it depends on what you can envision. What I try to envision is, where is the light coming from? And usually the light's coming from up, because that's where the sun is. That's where lights usually are. They're not down on the floor shining up at you or anything like that for the most part. Usually lights are up in the air. Lights are up above you. And so trying to visualize on this shape, if it were a 3D shape, where would the light be hitting? And I'm just not quite satisfied with this shape yet of a rock. I want to give it some edges to have light bounce off of. Well, maybe I do. I do a lot of undoing here in when I make graphics for these games, because sometimes you just make too many changes and you realize the thing you had before was actually kind of good, or was actually more of what you were wanting. That's okay. So here, this will be a good rock. This will be a good rock to do. Right there. So, okay. So now let's try to envision where the light's going to be hitting. I think, well, first of all, one of the things I like to do when drawing my graphics is I like to give it a bit of a border between the outline and the details you add. I don't like to have the highlights, for example. I don't like to have them go all the way up to the edge. I like to give this just a little bit of a gap between here, just for, I think it just looks better that way. Oops. And I'll show you here in a second when I actually finish this line. So this is just the highlight. So I'm just trying to imagine, with the light shining down on this rock, where are the highlights going to be? And I can imagine, like here, maybe there is kind of like a top surface here, and then it kind of goes up to here and back down this. I'll show you. So now I fill this with white first of all, and then get rid of the stroke. Okay, and then give it more. Get rid of the stroke. Now go to the fill and give the fill more of a. There we go. And so I think there's too many vertices here, so I'm just going to delete these and kind of, there we go. And so that's kind of the top. That right there is pretty much it for the highlight. Pretty straightforward, nothing too fancy, but you can already see the highlight. It already kind of looks like a rock with a light shining on top of it. Now to give it the finishing touch, though, is the shadows. And so obviously the shadows are where the light is not hitting, and that's usually the bottom of things. So let's see what that's going to look like for our rock here. And again, with the shadows, I also tend to not want to go out to the very edge of things. I like to keep a little bit of a gap in between the whatever details you have inside your shape, between the outline and the details. I like to keep a little gap there. So if we're looking at this like there's a light shining down on it, where are the shadows going to be? And it's usually going to be places where the top surface kind of overhangs, and so the light can't get underneath of it, or things like that. So let's see if we can look at and see if there's any shapes like that. So let's start with the bottom here, and then right here I'm going to stop, because there's kind of like a this part of the rock is almost more in the foreground than this part of it back here. So I'm going to give that its own little shape right here. And a lot of this is just putting something down at all to begin with, even if you're not sure it's right. That way you can play around with it further and make it look exactly how you want to. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere here. Let's try one more. Let's try another shadow area right down here. There. Give that the same color fill. Okay, alright. That's kind of a rock looking thing. Now let's change the stroke from black to more of a gray. That'll give it just a bit more of a feeling of depth and definition than just solid black does. We'll make that a bit bigger too, but I want it to be on the, I want the stroke to be on the outside, I think. There we go. Okay. So this looks like, I'm going to change the highlight just a smidge. That, because it's kind of like this feeling of two rocks almost that were like fused together in a way. Oops. Okay, so we got this. This is pretty much our rock. This is our first rock. It's got the highlight may be a bit too bright. Let's just see. Okay, I mean we don't want it to be. Overall we want it to be nice and pleasing. We don't want any one piece of the details or anything about this to be too distracting. We don't want any one thing to be too distracting. We just want overall a nice, pleasing rock. And so now that I've got all these layers here for our rock, I'm going to group these together, and I'm going to call it rock 1, because we're going to have more than one rock. Alright, so we've got our rock. Now you can already take it and resize it. You know, you can kind of, well, hang on, there's one thing I gotta do here, and you gotta make sure that the stroke is set to scale with the object, otherwise the outline gets out of proportion and compared to the rest of the object when you scale it down. There we go. One other thing I'm going to do here is, I think I'm going to give it a drop shadow. So let's do outer shadow. Let's give it an offset so you can see it here. That's not bad. Now let's give the radius a bit more of a radius and full opacity here, so we can see what we're dealing with here. Just want it to feel like it's kind of embedded in the rock, in the actual level a bit. So that's not too bad. You can move it over the player. Fits right there in the level. Is that the right color? We can change the color a bit, make it a bit more, less gray and a bit more of a color by doing color overlay. Let's see. First, let's just grab the color out of the level, out of the dirt here. Let's see what that looks like, just for fun. And then we'll take the opacity down. Okay, now see, look, now it's kind of, it fits the level a bit more. Let's turn down the opacity. Let's increase. This isn't too bad. I like that. Okay, so that's our first rock. We can place this. We'll be able to place this anywhere in the level, and it'll just add some kind of a decoration to it. And so we'll make this one kind of big. we'll make it big for export, because then we can shrink it down in Godot and it won't lose any details. And so we will place that up here and just work on our next rock, which I kind of want to have it be a taller one. So let's make it, yeah, just up there, kind of jutting out of the ground a bit, with a little bit of a rock down here, kind of like a sister rock down here, and just random outlines on the bottom. Let's so here, let me turn off the effect so I can grab the original colors here. And let's get the fill to match. So it's this one here. Great. Now the same thing, trying to imagine, well, let me just add one more vertex there. So now it's a bit more rounded. Cool. Okay, so now let's try and see where the light, let's try and imagine the light coming from the top, and see where it would hit on this rock, and just draw the highlights there. So once again, I'm just going to draw some highlights here where I can imagine that the light would be hitting the rock. And then we'll give it the same fill as our other rock up here. Give it no stroke again. Alright. Let's make some adjustments here. Okay, and so, oh, check this out here. Zoom in, move these around. And so now I can also imagine, so let's see, a highlight here, but it kind of carries on over into this area. And it's just the tops of more rocks. So we'll just draw the highlights over here. Okay. Same fill. And there's the highlights for more of our rocks. We're almost done with the highlights. I think we just need a couple more highlights here. Not bad. And then one for this rock right here, over in the side. Sometimes if you're not paying attention, it'll create the layer below the layer you're trying to work with. Okay, so we got the highlights for this rock done. Now let's work on the shadows and see how it's going to look. So again, we imagine where the shadows are going to be cast, and this is going to have more of a jaggedy. This is going to have more of a jaggedy look than the other rock, just because these are kind of like jutting out of the ground, and so they're going to be more vertically aligned than the other rocks. The other rock was. So let's just see what we can do here. Let's give this a bit of a darker color, and how's that working? Oh, is that the right dark? Let's see. Okay. So let's see, are we gonna be able to, here, let's move this one up. away from the border. So that looks okay. It may not, I'm not sure that's going to work. I'm not sure that's going to be the final look of it, but it's a starting point, and we need a starting point to get us going. We'll try and do the same thing down here. Fill that. Make it go below. Oops. All right. I think we might want to just move these up a bit. There we go. Let's add another rock here in the middle. Give it the highlight. See if we can add a shadow here that makes sense. Let's grab the color. Yeah, that's working. That's working. Alright, let's keep going. Actually, I'm gonna try something. Let's get a little gap here as well. Oops, no curves yet. I think I like that gap. Once again, just add some shadow beneath it. Make it kind of like taper down into points. Like that. And then let's try this here and add one long one to this highlight. And you don't have to be very precise. You can adjust things later if you need to, but oftentimes just simply random-ish looking shapes can accomplish what you're looking for. So how does that look? I think what I'm going to try and do is take this shape now and just extend it down, but I need to make it go behind these other ones here. Add some more dark color here. Have it go over here. The point is trying to basically trick the eye into believing that it's seeing highlights and shadows in the form of rocks. And sometimes that can be kind of hard to do. Sometimes it's pretty easy. I think these highlights may be a little bit too bright. So we'll take these and darken them just a bit here. That works. I'm going to extend these over because I think the whole bottom should be kind of in shadows. There we go. Our second rock. And I think I am going to make these highlights the same color again. You just experiment and see what works, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. You just gotta see what works. I don't know, it still seems, maybe the shadows are too dark. I think there's too much contrast here between the highlights and the shadows on this one. And so okay, I think that's good right there. That's probably the same as it was before, but that's okay. So this can be our second rock here. Group these here. And I'll do the same thing. We'll go ahead and go to stroke and scale with object. Alright, so now we've got two rocks that we can use in our level. They can be placed in various places. So yeah, let's go ahead and export these and get these into Godot. So we got our layers here. Make sure rock 2 is the name of this one. We'll make sure this other one's called Rock 1. I'm going to go ahead and turn the effects back on. The color overlay. Nah, I think I'm just going to leave the colors the way it is. I think I like it just gray. We can try color overlay again at some point. We can try it if the gray ends up not working out too well, but I think the gray is going to be fine. So for this rock, we'll go ahead and also give it an outer shadow. The offset and opacity and blur. Okay. So now we can go ahead and export these and get these into Godot. So we'll go to File. So we'll export Persona. Go to our layers, rock, create slice, rock, create slice, slices, rock 1, rock 2. I'm going to export both of those, the image folder, and export. So now I'm going to open up Godot, and let's go ahead and open up our level. In the levels folder, we'll go to level. This one's level 3, so pop that open here, and then it's real easy to get files. It's real easy to get images into your scenes. Just go to the file browser on the side, find the images you're looking for here. So in our case, we've got Rock 1 and Rock 2. So I'll start with Rock 1. I can just drag it into level. Big, make it small, rotate it. So, and then you can Command D to duplicate it. Just copying them, moving them, rotating them, placing them, wherever it looks good to you. Resizing them. And then we can also, let's do a few more, and then we'll import the other one. And let's also add one in front of things, I think, to make it look like you're actually walking in front of it. Here, grab it, and we can just put it right. Where's a good spot for it? I'll tell you what, we'll do it with the other rock. So let's import the other rock now. Just drag it in. There's the other one. Put it wherever it looks good. Let's resize it here. And you can drag it in the hierarchy over here on this side. You can drag it up behind the tile map to have it show up behind the tile map. And you also have to change the Z index. I forgot I have the Z index set on. So it actually doesn't matter where you have it set here in the hierarchy. Just need to change the Z index to, I think, something behind -10. Here, let's just see. Oh, there we go. It's 15. So 16 will go behind the tile map. And then just place it right there in the start. So if we hit play, and you can see there's the rocks. And I can actually even duplicate these on the fly. So I'll hit Command D, duplicate it, and see, there it is. You can see in the level I'm dragging it around as it's playing. I can also go to transform and scale. We'll do a negative scale to flip it, or better yet, we can go to offset and do flip H and flip it around the other way. Update the Z index so you can see it better. Where's a good place for it? Let's place this one back here, and I think this one is a good background one. This is a good background rock. Place it behind. See how big we can make it too. There we go. So now let's take a look and see how it looks. And we're going through our level. We got rocks in place. One of the things that we can do now is we can change the kind of the color that it shows up as in the game by clicking on the modulate property of the sprite, and you can just choose the color that you want to apply. Since this is a background object, we're going to give it a bit of a shadow so it's darker, because background objects tend to be darker because they're in the background. So we got this one here. Let's go up here to this one and do kind of the same thing. We'll click on sprite, click visibility, modulate, and then click a darker color to give it a shadow. And then we'll add a couple more in the background as well. Let's duplicate this guy here. Let's make him go up. Put it right here. But let's actually change the Z index so it is behind the ground. Boom, right like that. And then we'll once again make the color a bit darker so it looks like it's in the background like that. And then we'll do another one. I'll just duplicate this, make that kind of sticking out of the ground like that. Well, let's see, how do we want to do this? Let's rotate this, make it a bit flatter. And then once again, Z index puts it behind the ground. Okay, and then we'll just apply a dark color to it. That. Okay. And let's maybe try duplicating. Where is it? Oh, here. Let's just grab it and drag it out one more time. We'll flip it. So it's a little not the same as our other one. Make it a bit squished. Make it a bit smaller. Rotate it just a bit. We've got these kind of several. It look like several rocks here. Once in a second, once we put it behind the ground with the Z-index. Goes looks like several rocks there, and then lastly we'll make it dark so it looks like it's back in the background, and then we'll save it and we'll refresh our level and see how it looks. Alright, so there you go. This is it. This is our level. We only added 2 rocks to the level, but due to the scale and the rotations of the rocks and the placement of the rocks and the shading, you know, by adding darkness to the background rocks, it gives it such an amount of variety just from 2 graphics, just from 2 sprites. That's all it took to add this kind of a variety to this kind of a look to the level. So it's much more pleasing to look at. There's much more variety to it. It feels more like you're in a mine now. And that's all it took. So there it is. We added some graphics to the Jetpack Miner. It doesn't look quite as boring now. We still have some work to do, but that'll be for a future video. Thanks everyone. Please click like on this video if you haven't, and subscribe down in the corner. I would really appreciate it. And if you could, click the notification bell if you'd like to know when I release more videos like this one. Be excellent to each other, and I'll see you next time. Bye everybody.